Hello, this is Harrison Walton, and you are listening to Social Skills That Stand Out, a confidence and charisma audiobook provided to you by United Audiobooks. I hope you enjoy my audiobook. Now, let us begin.
Introduction. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. The art of reading between the lines is a lifelong quest of the wise. Peter Drucker. I never planned to become an authority on social skills. Growing up, I was the kid who'd rather have my nose in a book than engage in small talk at family gatherings. I'd watch with a mixture of awe and confusion as certain people seemed to effortlessly command attention, inspire trust, and build connections while I fumbled through fundamental interactions. Years later, after countless awkward conversations, missed opportunities, and a particularly mortifying company presentation where I literally tripped over both my words and my feet, I realized something had to change. My technical expertise alone wasn't going to advance my career or enrich my personal relationships if I couldn't effectively connect with others. That realization began a decade-long journey into understanding what truly makes some people stand out in social situations, while others fade into the background. I discovered that exceptional social skills aren't an innate talent bestowed upon a lucky few. They're a sophisticated set of learnable competencies grounded in emotional intelligence, authentic presence, and deliberate practice. The chapters that follow distill what I've learned from interviewing hundreds of naturally charismatic individuals, studying the latest research in social neuroscience and behavioral psychology, and testing these principles in my own life. This isn't about manipulating others or putting on a performance. It's about becoming the most authentic, connected version of yourself, someone who others naturally gravitate toward because you make them feel seen, heard, and valued. Why this audiobook now? Consider James, a brilliant software engineer whose innovative ideas were consistently overlooked because he couldn't articulate them confidently in meetings, or Sophia, whose anxiety about networking events was holding back her entrepreneurial dreams. Then there's Miguel, whose technical prowess earned him a management position, but whose team was disengaging because he couldn't read the emotional undercurrents in his department. Each of them, like perhaps you, possessed tremendous value to offer the world, but lacked the social fluency to ensure that value was recognized and received. In our increasingly digital world, where so many interactions happen through screens, the ability to create genuine human connection has become both rarer and more valuable. This paradox presents an extraordinary opportunity for those willing to develop these skills. While technical capabilities may eventually be replicated by artificial intelligence, the uniquely human ability to connect emotionally, to inspire trust, and to collaborate creatively will only become more essential. Those who master these abilities won't just succeed, they'll stand out in ways that matter deeply. What you'll discover. Throughout these chapters, you'll find a blend of science-backed insights and immediately applicable techniques. I've organized the materials to build progressively, starting with inner mindsets before moving to external expressions and specific social contexts. You'll learn how to decode the emotional landscape of any room you enter, project confidence without arrogance, navigate conversations with grace and purpose, transform nervous energy into magnetic presence, recover skillfully from social missteps, build lasting rapport across differences, influence others with integrity. Each concept is accompanied by real-world examples, practical exercises, and reflection questions designed to transform abstract principles into embodied skills. I've been particularly mindful to include strategies for introverts, those with social anxiety, and neurodivergent individuals who may process social information differently. A personal note of gratitude. This audiobook wouldn't exist without the generosity of countless individuals who shared their stories, struggles, and breakthroughs with me. From the executive who confessed that her polished professional persona masked profound social insecurity, to the former wallflower who transformed himself into a community leader. Each conversation deepened my understanding of our universal desire for connection. I'm especially indebted to Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose pioneering research on conversational intelligence expanded my thinking, to Marcus Y., whose friendship and brutal honesty helped refine these concepts, and to every workshop participant who courageously practiced these skills alongside me, proving that social fluency can be developed at any age. And of course, I'm grateful to you. By choosing this audiobook, you've demonstrated a commitment to your own growth and to enhancing the quality of your interactions with others. That intention alone sets you apart. Whether you're hoping to advance professionally, enrich your personal relationships, or simply feel more at ease in social settings, the journey you're about to embark on will transform not just how others perceive you, but how you experience the world around you. The ability to connect meaningfully with others is perhaps the most underrated life skill, one that yields dividends in every dimension of human experience. Shine in every conversation. Unlock the power of authentic connection. Do you ever feel invisible in social settings? Like you're saying all the right things, but something still doesn't click? Maybe you replay moments later, wondering what you could have done differently, wishing connection came more easily. You're not alone. Many people with genuine warmth and intelligence still struggle to express it when the pressure's on. What I've learned is that true confidence in social situations isn't about charm or performance. It's about self-awareness. When you understand the emotional patterns driving your reactions, why you freeze, overthink, or hold back, you gain the power to change them. That's where transformation begins. To help you uncover those hidden gems, I created a free self-discovery experience with Books for Growth, the What is Your Psychological Archetype quiz. It's designed to reveal the inner traits shaping your communication style, your natural strengths, emotional triggers, and the ways you connect or disconnect with others. Once you see these patterns clearly, you'll know exactly how to elevate your social confidence and start creating real, effortless connections. The ability to connect deeply isn't something you're missing. It's something waiting to be understood. Start that journey of self-awareness today. Take the quiz now by visiting quiz.booksforgrowth.com to get started. That's quiz.books4growth.com. Again, quiz.booksforgrowth.com. Chapter 1. Beyond IQ, the power of emotional intelligence. The intelligence gap we don't talk about enough. In the modern workplace and social landscape, a peculiar phenomenon persists. Some of the most academically brilliant individuals struggle in their careers and relationships, while others with modest academic credentials rise to positions of influence and maintain fulfilling connections. This paradox challenges our long-held assumption that cognitive intelligence, what we traditionally measure as IQ, determines our trajectory in life. The truth, as research increasingly confirms, is both more straightforward and more profound. How we manage emotions, both our own and others, often matters more than how quickly we solve abstract problems. Emotional intelligence represents our capacity to recognize, understand, and manage emotions effectively in ourselves and others. Unlike IQ, which remains relatively stable throughout life, emotional intelligence can be developed and refined through deliberate practice and awareness. This distinction isn't merely academic. It has far-reaching implications for how we approach education, career development, and personal growth. When we prioritize emotional intelligence, we unlock potential that traditional intelligence metrics cannot predict or measure. The conventional wisdom suggesting that academic excellence translates directly to professional success has been thoroughly debunked. Studies tracking high IQ individuals over decades show that cognitive horsepower alone doesn't guarantee achievement in real-world contexts. What separates outstanding performers from average ones isn't raw intellectual ability, but rather their capacity to navigate social complexities, manage stress effectively, and build meaningful relationships. This insight fundamentally shifts our understanding of what constitutes intelligence in practical terms. In our increasingly connected yet paradoxically isolated world, the ability to form authentic connections has become a rare and valuable currency. Many of us find ourselves adept at accumulating knowledge, but struggling with the fundamentals of human interaction. This audiobook aims to bridge that gap by providing practical frameworks for developing the social intelligence that helps you stand out in an age of digital distraction and superficial connections. The journey begins with understanding that emotional intelligence isn't a nice-to-have skill. It's an essential foundation for meaningful social interaction. Throughout this first chapter, we'll explore the fundamental components of emotional intelligence and how they differ from traditional conceptions of intelligence. We'll examine compelling research showing how EQ influences everything from career advancement to relationship satisfaction, often outweighing the impact of technical skills or cognitive abilities. Most importantly, we'll introduce practical strategies for developing greater emotional awareness and regulation, skills that form the foundation for all effective communication. This exploration serves as our entry point to the broader themes of this book: developing authentic charisma, navigating complex conversations with confidence, understanding the subtle language of nonverbal communication, and ultimately building the kind of meaningful connections that make both personal and professional life more rewarding. By developing these capabilities, you'll not only enhance your social effectiveness, but also discover a more authentic way of being in the world, one where your interactions feel less like performances and more like genuine expressions of who you are. Whether you consider yourself socially adept or find yourself struggling with basic interactions, the principles in this chapter provide a foundation for growth. The journey towards standing out socially doesn't require you to become someone you're not. Instead, it invites you to develop a deeper understanding of yourself and others through the lens of emotional intelligence. Let's begin by redefining what it means to be smart in ways that actually matter in our everyday lives. When numbers failed her, the autumn sunlight slanted through the blinds, painting gold bars across Susan's office. She sat at her desk, shoulders bent under a weight invisible to others, reading through the latest of performance reviews. On her monitor, a graph showed sales figures with her name at the bottom. The numbers were clear, the metrics precise, and Susan, with her 3 degrees and test scores that had always put her at the top of every class, could not understand why she remained anchored to the bottom of that chart. She ran her hand across the smooth surface of her desk, feeling the cool wood beneath her fingertips. The sensation grounded her as her mind raced. Outside her window, people moved through the corporate campus. They laughed. They connected. They succeeded where she faltered. I've always been the smart one, she thought, remembering her mother's pride when she had brought home perfect report cards. Intelligence had been her identity, her shield, her sword. Now it failed to cut through the challenges before her. Her clients respected her knowledge, but did not warm to her. Her colleagues invited her to meetings, but not to lunches. Something essential remained beyond her grasp. The knock at her door broke her concentration. Mark leaned against the doorframe, his tie loose around his neck. "Got a minute?" He entered without waiting for her response, comfortable in a way Susan had never mastered. The Morrison account. They're hesitating. He sat in the chair across from her, stretched his legs. They like the proposal, the numbers work, but they're not convinced we understand their needs. Susan closed the performance review file on her screen. The proposal is solid. I went through every requirement line by line. The cost-benefit analysis proves we're the right choice. Her voice tightened. She hated the defensive edge that crept in. It's not about the proposal. Mark looked at her directly, his eyes kind but unflinching. When we met with them last week, you didn't read the room. Janet Morrison mentioned her concerns about their team's resistance to change, and you dismissed it with facts and figures. The memory returned to Susan. Janet's slight frown, the way the conversation at the table had stalled. She had pressed forward with her presentation, thinking clarity would win the day. I gave them what they needed to know, but not what they needed to feel, Mark said. The words hung between them, heavy with truth Susan had spent years avoiding. He leaned forward. You're brilliant, Susan. Everyone knows it, but sometimes people need to know you hear them before they'll listen to you. Susan stared at the bars of sunlight on her desk. Her test scores, her degrees, her analytical mind. These things had carried her far, but not far enough. The faces of lost clients and missed promotions appeared in her mind. The pattern emerged, clear as the graph on her screen. Intelligence alone had not saved her. Perhaps it never would. The realization settled into her bones, a truth both painful and freeing. What if the path forward required more than her mind? What if success demanded she develop a different kind of intelligence altogether? Redefining intelligence for the modern world. For decades, society has placed an overwhelming emphasis on intelligence quotient, IQ, as the ultimate measure of human capability. We've created elaborate systems to test, rank, and categorize individuals based on their cognitive abilities. Schools reward those who excel in mathematics and analytical thinking. Businesses seek employees with the highest academic achievements. Our culture celebrates the genius, the prodigy, the individual who can solve complex problems with ease. Yet, beneath the seemingly logical approach to human potential lies an incomplete picture. Think of intelligence as an iceberg. IQ represents only the visible portion above the waterline. Below the surface exists a vast structure of emotional capabilities that often determines our real-world effectiveness. This hidden dimension, emotional intelligence, encompasses our ability to recognize emotions in ourselves and others, to understand their meaning, and to use this awareness to guide our thinking and behavior. Emotional intelligence, EQ, consists of 4 core abilities: perceiving emotions accurately, using emotions to facilitate thought, understanding emotions and their progression, and managing emotions effectively. Unlike IQ, which remains relatively stable throughout life, emotional intelligence can be developed and strengthened over time through conscious effort and practice. This malleability makes EQ particularly valuable. It represents an aspect of ourselves we can actively improve, regardless of our starting point. The distinction becomes clearer when we observe real-world outcomes. 2 employees with identical IQs may perform radically differently based on their emotional capabilities. The one who can manage stress effectively, communicate clearly, resolve conflicts, and collaborate harmoniously will invariably outperform the colleague who lacks these skills. Similarly, in personal relationships, emotional intelligence often determines whether connections flourish or falter. The ability to empathize, listen actively, and navigate complex feelings forms the foundation of meaningful human bonds. Consider the workplace landscape as a chessboard. Traditional intelligence might help you learn the rules and develop strategies, but emotional intelligence determines how well you adapt, when your opponent makes an unexpected move. It's the difference between knowing the technical aspects of the game and understanding the psychological dimensions at play. The most successful players master both. Research increasingly supports this view. Studies across diverse fields show that EQ correlates more strongly with life satisfaction, relationship quality, and career advancement than IQ alone. A landmark study by TalentSmart found that emotional intelligence explained 58% of success across all job types, making it the strongest predictor of workplace performance. Meanwhile, Google's Project Oxygen revealed that among the 8 most important qualities of their top employees, technical expertise ranked last, while coaching ability, communication skills, and empathetic leadership, all aspects of emotional intelligence, dominated the list. This shifting paradigm doesn't diminish the value of cognitive abilities. Rather, it acknowledges that human potential extends beyond abstract reasoning and memory retention. True intelligence encompasses how we navigate our internal emotional landscape and external social environment. It recognizes that how we handle ourselves and our relationships often matters more than what we know. The neuroscience behind emotional intelligence reveals why it proves so influential. Our brain's emotional centers connect directly with our prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and executive function. When emotions go unrecognized or unmanaged, they can hijack our thinking, leading to impulsive choices and irrational behavior. Conversely, when we develop emotional awareness and regulation, we harness these powerful forces to enhance our reasoning rather than undermine it. For generations, success metrics focused narrowly on academic achievement and technical proficiency. This limited view created educational systems that prioritize standardized test scores over social emotional development. But as automation increasingly handles technical tasks, the uniquely human capabilities, creativity, collaboration, empathy, and adaptability have become the true differentiators in both personal fulfillment and professional achievement. Emotional intelligence represents not a rejection of traditional intelligence, but its essential complement. The critical missing piece that explains why some highly intelligent people struggle while others with modest IQs thrive. The transformative impact on relationships and career. Emotional intelligence fundamentally reshapes how we connect with others. At its core, EQ provides the ability to recognize emotions in others through facial expressions, body language, and vocal tones. This awareness creates the foundation for genuine human connection. When someone feels truly seen and understood, trust naturally develops. Consider how quickly you form bonds with people who seem to get you, compared to those who remain oblivious to your emotional state. The workplace landscape has transformed dramatically in recent decades. Technical skills that once guaranteed career advancement now represent merely the entry ticket. What truly distinguishes high performers is their ability to navigate the complex human dynamics present in every organization. A 2019 LinkedIn Global Talent Trends report revealed that 92% of hiring managers consider soft skills equal to or more important than technical abilities when evaluating candidates. Among these soft skills, communication, adaptability, and collaboration, all components of emotional intelligence, consistently rank highest. Think of emotional intelligence in professional settings as the difference between a technician and a conductor. The technician may possess flawless expertise in one instrument, but the conductor understands how diverse elements harmonize to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Similarly, emotionally intelligent professionals excel not just through their individual contributions, but by orchestrating effective collaboration and bringing out the best in those around them. IQ gets you hired, but EQ gets you promoted. Observe psychologist Daniel Goleman, whose pioneering research has demonstrated that emotional intelligence becomes increasingly important as individuals advance in their careers. At entry levels, technical proficiency may differentiate candidates. However, at leadership levels, nearly 90% of success attributes connect directly to emotional intelligence rather than cognitive abilities. The higher someone climbs organizationally, the more their effectiveness depends on motivating others rather than personal technical contribution. The interpersonal benefits of emotional intelligence extend well beyond professional achievements. Research consistently shows that emotionally intelligent individuals maintain healthier, more satisfying relationships. They navigate conflicts more successfully, communicate their needs more effectively, and demonstrate greater empathy toward their partners. One longitudinal study tracking couples over 25 years found that emotional intelligence predicted relationship satisfaction more accurately than shared interests, personality compatibility, or physical attraction. This relational advantage stems from several key capabilities. Emotionally intelligent individuals remain aware of their triggers and reactions, preventing minor irritations from escalating into major conflicts. They express their feelings constructively rather than through criticism or contempt. Perhaps most importantly, they listen to understand rather than to formulate responses, creating space for genuine connection rather than parallel monologues. Consider how emotional intelligence operates during disagreements. When tensions rise, those with high IQ can simultaneously manage their internal reactions while remaining attuned to their counterpart's emotional state. This dual awareness allows them to de escalate situations that might otherwise spiral into destructive patterns. Rather than becoming defensive or combative, they can acknowledge concerns, validate feelings, and work toward mutual understanding, even when perspectives differ dramatically. Beyond individual relationships, emotional intelligence creates ripple effects throughout organizations and communities. Research by Sigal Barsade at Wharton Business School demonstrates how emotions spread contagiously through groups. One emotionally intelligent individual can elevate entire team dynamics by modeling constructive responses to challenges, recognizing unspoken tensions, and facilitating more authentic communication. Conversely, a single person lacking emotional awareness can undermine otherwise capable groups through unchecked negative emotions. The financial implications of emotional intelligence prove equally compelling. A study of financial advisors at American Express found that advisors selected for emotional intelligence training grew their business by 18.1%, compared to 16.2% for a control group. Similarly, L'Oreal sales agents hired based on emotional competencies sold $91,370 more annually than those selected through traditional methods, resulting in a net revenue increase of $2,558,360. These tangible outcomes reflect how emotional intelligence translates directly to business performance through improved client relationships, team collaboration, and adaptability to changing circumstances. Perhaps most significantly, emotional intelligence provides resilience during challenging times. When faced with setbacks, individuals with high IQ can process disappointment without becoming derailed by it. They view failures as learning opportunities rather than reflections of their worth. This perspective enables faster recovery from difficulties and greater persistence toward goals despite obstacles. In an increasingly volatile, uncertain business landscape, this resilience represents perhaps the most valuable aspect of emotional intelligence for long term success. How might your relationships and career trajectory transform if you invested in developing your emotional intelligence with the same dedication typically reserved for technical skills? Practical pathways to emotional mastery. Building emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness, the foundation upon which all other aspects rest. Without recognizing our own emotional states, we cannot hope to manage them effectively or understand others accurately. Start by simply labeling emotions as they arise throughout your day. Notice physical sensations that accompany different feelings. The tightness in your chest during anxiety, the warmth in your face during embarrassment, or the lightness in your step during joy. This conscious recognition creates a vital pause between feeling and reacting. Self-awareness requires honesty and courage. We must be willing to acknowledge uncomfortable emotions rather than suppress them. Many of us learned early to hide certain feelings, anger, fear, or sadness, believing they signify weakness. Yet emotional intelligence recognizes that all emotions serve important purposes. Anger alerts us to boundaries being crossed. Fear warns us of potential threats. Sadness connects us to what we value. By accepting our full emotional spectrum, we gain valuable information about ourselves and our circumstances. Communication improves dramatically when we develop emotional vocabulary beyond basic terms like good, bad, fine, or upset. Research shows that precisely naming emotions, distinguishing between annoyance, frustration, and rage, for instance, actually reduces their intensity and increases our control over them. This specificity, known as emotional granularity, allows us to express ourselves more accurately and understand others with greater nuance. It transforms vague discomfort into actionable insight. Think of emotional regulation as similar to driving a car. Without awareness of road conditions, self-awareness, and proper steering mechanisms, regulation techniques, even the most powerful vehicle becomes dangerous. Similarly, our emotions provide tremendous energy and motivation, but without proper guidance, they can lead us astray. Effective regulation doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather directing their energy constructively, slowing down when conditions require caution and accelerating when the path is clear. Regular practice strengthens our emotional regulation capabilities. Mindfulness meditation, even just 5 minutes daily, has been shown to enhance the brain's executive function while reducing reactivity in the amygdala, our emotional alarm system. This practice creates space between stimulus and response, allowing us to choose our reactions rather than being driven by automatic patterns. Similarly, deep breathing activates our parasympathetic nervous system, counteracting stress responses and restoring cognitive clarity during emotional intensity. Conflict resolution represents a crucial application of emotional intelligence. When disagreements arise, those with high IQ can separate the person from the problem, addressing issues without attacking character. They listen not just to rebut, but to understand, validating others' perspectives even when disagreeing with them. This approach transforms potential confrontations into opportunities for deeper connection and creative problem solving. The key lies in maintaining curiosity rather than judgment when facing different viewpoints. The CARE framework, cultivating advanced relational excellence. The CARE framework provides a comprehensive approach to developing emotional intelligence across 4 essential domains. Each component builds up the others to create a complete system for emotional mastery in both personal and professional contexts. Component 1. Conscious awareness. Conscious awareness forms the foundation of emotional intelligence. This component involves recognizing emotions as they arise within yourself and observing emotional signals in others. Developing this awareness requires regular self-reflection and attention to both internal and external cues. Key characteristics include the ability to name specific emotions beyond basic categories, recognition of physical sensations associated with different emotional states, awareness of personal triggers and emotional patterns, attentiveness to subtle expressions in others' faces, voices, and body language. Practices to strengthen conscious awareness include emotional journaling, where you document emotional experiences and identify patterns over time. Body scan meditations help connect physical sensations to emotional states. Feedback sessions with trusted friends or colleagues can reveal blind spots in your emotional awareness. Regular check-ins throughout the day, simply asking, "What am I feeling right now?" build the habit of emotional attentiveness. This component contributes to the overall framework by creating the necessary foundation for all other emotional intelligence skills. Without awareness, we cannot hope to manage emotions effectively or respond appropriately to others' emotional needs. Component 2. Adaptive regulation. Adaptive regulation builds upon awareness by developing the capacity to manage emotions effectively rather than being controlled by emotional impulses. Those skilled in this domain can modulate their responses to fit the situation while honoring their authentic feelings. Key characteristics include the ability to calm intense emotions without suppressing them, flexibility in emotional expression across different contexts, resilience when facing setbacks or challenges, patience during difficult interactions. Effective regulation strategies include cognitive reframing, examining situations from multiple perspectives to reduce emotional intensity, physiological techniques like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or brief physical movement can interrupt escalating emotional states. Creating healthy outlets for emotional energy, whether through creative expression, physical activity, or constructive conversation, prevents emotional suppression while avoiding impulsive reactions. This component enhances the framework by transforming emotional awareness into practical emotional management, where awareness provides information, regulation provides control, allowing emotions to inform rather than dictate behavior. Component 3. Relational empathy. Relational empathy extends emotional intelligence beyond self-management into interpersonal effectiveness. This component involves understanding others' perspectives, recognizing their emotional needs, and responding appropriately to foster connection. Key characteristics include active listening without planning responses while others speak, validation of others' emotions, even when disagreeing with their conclusions, recognition of unspoken concerns or feelings in interactions, appropriate adjustment of communication style based on others' needs. Practices to develop relational empathy include perspective-taking exercises, where you deliberately imagine situations from another's viewpoint, reflective listening techniques, paraphrasing other statements to confirm understanding, build connection while improving comprehension. Curiosity questions that explore others' experiences without judgment create space for authentic sharing. This component strengthens the framework by extending emotional intelligence from personal mastery to interpersonal effectiveness, while self-awareness and regulation focus on managing one's internal landscape. Empathy bridges the gap between self and others. Component 4. Expressive authenticity. Expressive authenticity completes the framework by developing clear, honest communication while maintaining respect for others. This component balances assertiveness with sensitivity, allowing for truth-telling without unnecessary harm. Key characteristics include clear expression of needs and boundaries without aggression, constructive delivery of difficult feedback, appropriate vulnerability that fosters connection, consistency between verbal and nonverbal communication. Practices to strengthen expressive authenticity include using I statements that express feelings without accusation. Regular assertiveness practice in low-stakes situations builds confidence for more challenging conversations. Feedback partnerships, where trusted colleagues or friends exchange honest observations, develop both giving and receiving capabilities. This component completes the framework by ensuring that emotional intelligence translates into effective action. Where the previous components build understanding and control, expressive authenticity focuses on impact, how we translate emotional intelligence into meaningful interaction. The four components interact dynamically rather than linearly. Conscious awareness provides the information needed for adaptive regulation. Both awareness and regulation create the foundation for genuine relational empathy by preventing personal emotions from distorting our perception of others. Finally, expressive authenticity requires all three previous components to assure that communication remains both honest and effective. In practice, the framework functions as a continuous feedback loop. Each interaction provides new opportunities for awareness, which informs regulation, enhances empathy, and improves expression. This ongoing cycle creates an upward spiral of emotional intelligence development. The CARE framework offers practical application across diverse contexts. In professional settings, it enhances leadership effectiveness, team collaboration, and client relationships. In personal relationships, it fosters deeper connection, more constructive conflict resolution, and greater mutual understanding. Even in casual social interactions, the framework improves ease, authenticity, and positive impact. Future development of this framework might include cultural adaptations that recognize how emotional expression varies across different societies. Additionally, research into neuroplasticity continues to reveal how specific practices can strengthen the neural pathways associated with each component, potentially allowing for more targeted development strategies. Emotional intelligence transforms our relationship with ourselves, enhances our connections with others, and maximizes our professional impact, creating a powerful triad of benefits that reinforce one another in an ongoing cycle of personal growth and social effectiveness. Navigating emotional complexity. Traditional education rarely addresses emotional literacy, leaving many adults with a limited vocabulary for their inner experiences. Yet research consistently shows that accurately labeling emotions, a skill called emotional granularity, significantly improves our ability to process and regulate feelings. Those who can distinguish between similar emotions like disappointment, discouragement, or despair demonstrate greater resilience than those who simply categorize experiences as feeling bad. Expanding your emotional vocabulary represents a practical first step toward greater intelligence. Try identifying specific shades of your emotional experiences rather than using broad categories. Instead of saying you feel good, recognize whether you're experiencing contentment, joy, excitement, gratitude, or pride. When facing difficult feelings, differentiate between anxiety, nervousness, worry, or dread. This precision brings clarity to your internal landscape. Our emotional responses often follow predictable patterns formed early in life. Someone who received praise only for achievements might experience anxiety when faced with new challenges. Fearing failure will make them unworthy of love. Another person whose emotions were dismissed in childhood might struggle to recognize feelings at all. Identifying these emotional scripts allows us to rewrite them deliberately rather than following unconscious programming. Step by step, emotional intelligence grows through intentional practice. 1. Begin with daily emotional check-ins, asking, "What am I feeling right now?" 3 times each day. 2. Practice physical awareness by noticing where emotions manifest in your body. 3. Develop regulation techniques that work for your specific emotional patterns. 4. Practice empathetic listening without immediately offering solutions. 5. Start expressing emotions using "I feel" statements rather than accusatory "you" statements. Seek feedback from trusted others about your emotional impact. Gradually tackle more challenging emotional situations as your skills improve. Emotional intelligence in action transforms how we handle disagreements. When conflicts arise, those with high EQ remain curious rather than defensive. They ask questions to understand the other person's perspective instead of immediately countering with their own view. This approach often reveals that apparent disagreements stem from different underlying concerns rather than actual opposition. By addressing these deeper issues, solutions emerge that satisfy both parties' core needs. Like any skill set, emotional intelligence develops through deliberate practice. The good news? Every interaction provides an opportunity to strengthen these abilities. Each conversation, meeting, or disagreement offers a chance to observe emotions, regulate responses, demonstrate empathy, and communicate authentically. This continuous practice creates an upward spiral of improvement that enhances both personal well-being and professional effectiveness. Emotional intelligence isn't merely a nice-to-have soft skill. It's the essential human capability that determines how effectively we navigate our increasingly complex social world, how deeply we connect with others, and how successfully we apply our cognitive abilities to real-world challenges. The bridge between knowledge and connection. As we've explored throughout this chapter, emotional intelligence represents far more than just another skill set to develop. It's the foundation that amplifies everything else in your social and professional life. The ability to recognize, understand, and effectively manage emotions, both yours and others, creates opportunities that pure intellectual capability simply cannot access. The research is clear. While IQ might get you in the door, it's your EQ that determines how far you'll go once inside. Those who excel in emotional intelligence consistently outperform their peers across industries and positions, not because they're inherently smarter, but because they navigate the human landscape with greater awareness and adaptability. Remember that emotional intelligence isn't fixed. It's a muscle that strengthens with consistent practice. The strategies we've discussed for improving emotional awareness, self-regulation, and empathetic communication aren't merely theoretical concepts, but practical tools you can implement immediately. Start with just one approach today. Perhaps it's pausing to identify your emotional state before entering an important conversation, or practice active listening when a colleague speaks rather than preparing your response. Small, consistent steps create remarkable change over time. You've already begun this journey by recognizing the importance of emotional intelligence in your life. This awareness alone puts you ahead of many who continue to rely solely on technical knowledge or intellectual ability to advance their goals. As you move forward into the next chapters, you'll build upon this foundation with specific techniques to enhance your charisma, navigate complex social dynamics, and influence others ethically and effectively. The emotional intelligence framework we've established here serves as the bedrock for those more advanced social skills. You're embarking on a transformative path that countless successful individuals have walked before you. The difference now is that you're doing so consciously, with clear intentions and practical strategies at your disposal. In the coming chapters, we'll expand your social toolkit exponentially, showing you how to command attention in any room without saying a word, build instant rapport with virtually anyone you meet, navigate difficult conversations with confidence and grace, establish yourself as a trusted leader, and people naturally want to follow, transform conflict into opportunities for deeper connection. Your journey toward exceptional social skills begins with understanding yourself, your emotions, reactions, triggers, and patterns. From this self-awareness springs the ability to connect authentically with others in ways that leave lasting positive impressions. Trust the process. The skills of emotional intelligence might feel awkward initially, but with practice, they'll become second nature. Soon you'll find yourself intuitively reading rooms, diffusing tensions, and building bridges where others see only walls. The path to remarkable social influence starts here, with the fundamental recognition that how we manage emotions, not just how much we know, ultimately determines our success and fulfillment in an interconnected world. Strengthen your social confidence from the inside out. If there's one truth I've learned about social confidence, it's this. You can't connect deeply with others if you're constantly running on empty yourself. Emotional intelligence isn't just about understanding people. It's about managing your own energy, boundaries, and inner stability first. Many listeners come to this audiobook eager to master conversation skills or become more charismatic, but lasting change starts internally. Every confident interaction, every moment of genuine presence grows from a place of emotional balance. When I ignored that part of myself, I could perform socially, but I couldn't connect authentically. That's why I've partnered with Books for Growth, the company behind a free resource called Empowerment Through Self-Care. This guide complements what you're learning here by showing you how to protect your emotional bandwidth, reduce social fatigue, and build resilience, the hidden foundation of strong social skills. If you've ever felt drained after conversations or struggled to stay confident when your mind feels overwhelmed, this free ebook will help you recharge from within so your social presence feels natural and effortless. Download your copy today and start strengthening the emotional core behind every connection you build. Visit selfcare.booksforgrowth.com to get started. That's selfcare.books4growth.com. Again, selfcare.booksforgrowth.com. Chapter 2. Unleashing Your Inner Charisma. From wallflower to magnetic presence, your hidden charisma awaits. You've watched them walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a word. That colleague who effortlessly wins people over in meetings. The friend whose stories draw everyone in at parties. The stranger on the train who made you feel like the most important person in the world during a brief conversation. What did these people have that seemed so special, so unattainable? Contrary to popular belief, charisma isn't a magical quality bestowed upon a lucky few at birth. The truth, which will transform your social interactions once you embrace it, is that charisma is a learnable skill, not an innate trait. This revelation stands at the heart of our journey through this chapter. The magnetic presence you've admired in others isn't the result of some social lottery they won. It's the product of specific behaviors, mindsets, and emotional intelligence skills that anyone can develop with practice and intention. Many of us have accepted the myth that we're either born with it or we're not. We've labeled ourselves as introverts, awkward, or simply not good with people, as if these were permanent conditions rather than starting points. This self-limiting belief has prevented countless individuals from developing their social potential. But research in social psychology consistently shows that the components of charisma, warmth, presence, power, and authenticity can be cultivated through deliberate practice. Just as you might develop a new language or musical skill, you can systematically enhance your charismatic presence. What makes charisma particularly fascinating is its dual nature. It combines self-assurance with genuine connection. The most charismatic people you know aren't just confident, they make others feel valued and understood. They've mastered the art of being fully present, listening intently, and responding authentically. This combination creates a powerful resonance in social interactions that leaves lasting impressions. Throughout this chapter, we'll explore concrete techniques that help you build both confidence and connection skills simultaneously, creating a charismatic presence that feels natural rather than forced. The charisma advantage. The benefits of developing your charismatic potential extend far beyond simply making good impressions. People with strong charisma consistently report greater success in their careers, more satisfying personal relationships, and even better physical and mental health outcomes. Why? Charismatic individuals create psychological safety for others, inspire trust, and foster collaboration, all of which are critical components for success in our increasingly social world. By enhancing your charisma, you're not just learning a party trick, you're developing a fundamental life skill that pays dividends across all domains of your existence. In the sections ahead, we'll dismantle the myths that have kept you from recognizing your charismatic potential. You'll discover practical techniques to build genuine confidence, develop deeper empathy, and engage more authentically in your interactions. We'll examine how small adjustments in your body language, communication style, and mental focus can dramatically transform how others perceive and respond to you. Most importantly, you'll learn that enhancing your charisma doesn't require becoming someone else. It involves becoming more intentionally yourself. The journey to greater charisma isn't about manipulating others or putting on a performance. It's about removing the barriers that prevent your authentic self from connecting meaningfully with the people around you. As we progress through this chapter, keep in mind that the goal isn't perfection, but progress. Each small improvement in how you engage with others compounds over time, gradually transforming your social experience. Whether you're aiming to lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, or simply feel more comfortable in social settings, the charisma building tools in this chapter will serve as your foundation for standing out in all your social interactions. So let's begin this transformative journey together. One where you'll discover that the charisma you've admired in others has been within your reach all along. When the light went out of his voice, Mark stood at the edge of the conference room. All around him, voices rose and fell in laughter and casual conversation. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everyone in a pale, unforgiving glow. He felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the same one he experienced before every company meeting. His fingers tapped against his leg in a quiet rhythm. Someone had left a half-eaten sandwich on a paper plate near the window, the smell of tuna mixing with the stale air. They called David from accounting the magnet. When he entered a room, people gravitated toward him, as if he pulled some invisible force. Mark watched as David crossed the conference room now, stopping to touch an executive's shoulder, leaning in to whisper something that made the older man throw back his head in laughter. David wasn't particularly handsome, smart, or funny, but he had something, that thing. The thing Mark had spent 37 years trying to understand. "You should talk to Karen about the Johnson proposal," his boss had told him yesterday. "But do it right. You know how she is. Use some of that charm." Mark had nodded, as if he understood. As if he had charm tucked away somewhere that he could pull out when needed. He remembered his father's voice. "Some people just have it, son, and some don't." The memory cut through him like glass. The projector at the front of the room hummed to life, casting a blue light across the wall. People began taking their seats. Mark remained standing. Last night, he had found the book on his recommended list, The Learnable Art of Charisma. He had scoffed at first, but desperation made him open it. "Charisma isn't magic," the first page read. "It's a skill like any other." Mark had stayed up until 2, reading. The idea that this quality, this thing that had eluded him his entire life, might be something he could learn, practice, improve upon, it rattled something loose inside him. The meeting was starting. David caught his eye from across the room and nodded, gesturing to an empty seat beside him. Mark hesitated and crossed the room. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe there were things about himself he could still change. What if the walls we build between who we are and who we might become are made not of stone, but of belief? The myth of the born charismatic. The belief that charisma is an innate quality, something you're either born with or without, has persisted for generations. When we see someone captivate a room, we often attribute their magnetic presence to natural talent rather than developed skill. Research in social psychology, however, tells a different story. Studies consistently show that the behaviors and qualities associated with charisma, confident body language, empathetic listening, and authentic self-expression can be learned and refined through deliberate practice. The components of charisma are not mystical gifts, but rather observable, replicable skills that anyone can develop. Think of charisma like learning to play a musical instrument. No one expects a novice pianist to sit down and immediately play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. Instead, we understand that mastery comes through consistent practice, beginning with simple scales and gradually progressing to more complex pieces. The pianist improves through repetition, feedback, and incremental challenges. Charisma works the same way. It's a skill that develops over time with intentional effort and practice. Historical examples further dismantle the born with it myth. Many renowned charismatic figures openly discuss their journey from social awkwardness to compelling presence. Winston Churchill, often remembered for his powerful oratory, actually struggled with a speech impediment and spent countless hours practicing his delivery. Oprah Winfrey, now synonymous with magnetic communication, has spoken about overcoming severe shyness and learning to connect with audiences through years of professional experience. These examples remind us that charisma has developmental trajectories, not fixed starting points. The science behind skill acquisition provides additional evidence. Neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to form new neural pathways throughout life, means that we can literally rewire our brains to incorporate new behavioral patterns. When we practice charismatic behaviors consistently, these actions eventually become second nature. What begins as a conscious effort gradually transforms into a natural habit. This explains why truly charismatic people don't seem to be trying to be charismatic. They've simply integrated these skills so thoroughly, they no longer require conscious attention. Charisma is not a genetic lottery, but a learnable skill set accessible to anyone willing to practice consistently and with intention. Building your charisma toolkit. Developing charisma begins with understanding its core components. Contrary to popular belief, charisma isn't a singular quality, but a blend of several interconnected skills. Research by sociologist Catherine Hakem identifies three primary elements: confidence, belief in oneself; presence, being fully engaged in interactions; warmth, genuine concern for others. These components can be developed separately, but work most effectively when integrated. Each element responds to specific techniques and practices, making charisma development a structured process rather than a vague aspiration. Confidence serves as the foundation for a charismatic presence. To build authentic confidence, start with small victories that expand your comfort zone incrementally. Challenge yourself to initiate one conversation with a stranger each day, or express an opinion in a group setting when you might normally remain silent. Track these small wins in a journal to create tangible evidence of your growing capabilities. Remember that confidence doesn't require perfection. It thrives on resilience and the willingness to continue despite occasional setbacks. Body language transforms how others perceive you and, perhaps more importantly, how you perceive yourself. Harvard psychologist Amy Cuddy's research on power posing demonstrates that adopting expansive, open postures for just 2 minutes increases confidence hormones and decreases stress hormones. Before entering important social situations, try standing tall with your shoulders back and arms slightly away from your body. This simple practice sends powerful signals to both your brain and your audience about your self-assurance and approachability. The most magnetic individuals know that charisma flows from genuine curiosity about others. Empathetic listening, where you truly focus on understanding another person, rather than waiting for your turn to speak, creates powerful connections. Practice asking open-ended questions that invite detailed responses. What inspired you to enter your field? Rather than, do you like your job? Then listen without interrupting, maintaining comfortable eye contact and acknowledging what you hear with thoughtful follow-up questions. Authenticity provides the crucial difference between true charisma and manipulative charm. People instinctively sense when someone is being genuine versus performing for effect. Identify your core values and ensure your words and actions align with these principles. This doesn't mean sharing everything with everyone. Authentic self-disclosure requires appropriate context and timing. The goal is congruence between your inner beliefs and outward expression, creating the integrity that forms the backbone of lasting charisma. Developing vocal presence significantly enhances charismatic impact. Your voice conveys not just information, but emotion, confidence, and authority. Practice varying your pace, volume, and pitch to add dynamic range to your speech. Eliminating filler words, like, creates more authoritative delivery. Try recording yourself in conversation or a presentation to identify patterns and opportunities for improvement. Simple adjustments like speaking slightly more slowly or ending sentences with downward inflection can dramatically increase your perceived confidence and credibility. Storytelling serves as perhaps the most powerful tool in the charismatic toolkit. Humans are neurologically wired to respond to narrative. Stories activate more brain regions than plain facts and create stronger emotional connections. Develop a repertoire of personal stories that illustrate your values and experiences. The most effective stories include vulnerability alongside strength, showing both challenges and resilience. When sharing, include sensory details and emotional components to help listeners experience the story rather than merely hearing it. The most overlooked aspect of charisma development is strategic recovery from social missteps. Everyone, even the most naturally charming individuals, occasionally says the wrong thing or misreads a situation. The difference lies in how they handle these moments. Instead of dwelling on embarrassment, charismatic people acknowledge the awkwardness briefly, use humor when appropriate, and redirect the interaction forward. Practice recovery phrases, "Let me try that again," or "That came out differently than I intended," prepares you to navigate difficult moments with grace. Charisma ultimately flourishes through constant practice in real-world settings. Create a personal development plan that includes specific charisma-building activities each week. This might include volunteering for speaking opportunities, attending networking events, or simply practicing deeper conversations with friends. After each social interaction, take a few minutes to reflect on what went well and what you might improve. This consistent cycle of practice and reflection accelerates skill development, gradually transforming conscious techniques into natural behaviors. How might your relationships and opportunities transform if you approach charisma as a skill to develop rather than a quality you either have or lack? The ripple effect of personal magnetism. Cultivated charisma creates profound impacts that extend far beyond merely making favorable impressions. In professional environments, charismatic individuals tend to advance more quickly and encounter greater opportunities for leadership. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that charismatic qualities correlate strongly with perceptions of leadership potential, even when controlling for other factors like experience and technical skill. This occurs because charisma enhances your ability to articulate vision, inspire commitment, and build the trust necessary for effective collaboration. Personal relationships similarly flourish when nurtured with charismatic qualities. The authentic connection at the heart of true charisma creates deeper understanding and stronger bonds between friends, romantic partners, and family members. When you engage with genuine presence, truly seeing others rather than merely interacting with them, people feel valued in your company. This quality of attention becomes increasingly rare and valuable in our distraction-filled world, making those who offer it stand out dramatically. Influence operates as a natural byproduct of well-developed charisma. Rather than manipulation, this form of influence stems from connection. People willingly listen to and consider perspectives from those with whom they feel an authentic rapport. Think of influence as water flowing through channels created by trust and understanding. Without these pathways, even the most logical arguments or brilliant ideas encounter resistance. With them, your thoughts and suggestions find receptive audiences, creating ripple effects of impact far beyond your direct interactions. The Charisma Development Model. The Charisma Development Model provides a systematic approach to transforming charisma from an abstract concept into concrete skills. Unlike approaches that treat charisma as mysterious or innate, this framework breaks charisma into learnable components with specific development pathways. Let's explore each element of this comprehensive model. Foundational elements. The model begins with three core foundational elements: confidence, authenticity, and emotional resonance. These components form the bedrock upon which charismatic presence is built. Confidence manifests as comfortable self-assurance that puts others at ease. It develops through gradual exposure to increasingly challenging social situations, supported by preparation and reflection. Specific techniques include positive self-talk that challenges limiting beliefs, body language adjustments, posture, gestures, eye contact, progressive comfort zone expansion, competence building in relevant skills, visualization of successful interactions. Authenticity involves expressing your genuine self rather than projecting a fabricated persona. It requires self-awareness and comfort with vulnerability. Development practices include personal values clarification exercises, congruence checks between inner feelings and outward expression, appropriate self-disclosure, practicing honest communication with tact, reflection on interactions where you felt least authentic. Emotional resonance creates connection through empathy and attunement to others. This component develops through active listening without preparing responses, recognizing emotional cues in others, practicing perspective-taking exercises, responding to emotional content before logical content, creating a safe space for others' authentic expression. Practice mechanisms. The model's second layer consists of mechanisms for practicing these foundational elements. Structured role-playing provides low-risk opportunities to experiment with charismatic behaviors. This might involve rehearsing important conversations with a friend, practicing different approaches to challenging scenarios, video recording practice sessions for feedback, working with a coach on specific techniques, gradually increasing complexity and spontaneity. Real-world application moves practice into authentic contexts, starting with lower-stakes situations, creating specific goals for each social opportunity, building a charisma practice habit in daily interactions, finding accountability partners for consistent practice, debriefing after significant interactions, assessment and adaptation. The model's final component creates the feedback loop necessary for improvement. Self-assessment checklists help track progress in specific behaviors, monitoring confidence indicators, voice stability, posture, etc., evaluating authenticity through internal congruence, measuring emotional connection through others' responses, identifying patterns in successful interactions, recognizing triggers for charisma-diminishing behaviors. Strategic adaptation adjusts development based on feedback, refining techniques based on what works for your personality, addressing specific challenges with targeted practice, incorporating new learnings into your approach, adjusting goals as skills develop, creating sustainability through intrinsic motivation. Integration and application. The power of this model lies in how these components interact and reinforce each other. Confidence creates space for authenticity, which enables emotional resonance, which in turn builds confidence. Practice mechanisms provide opportunities to strengthen foundational elements, while assessment tools guide further practice. The dynamic nature of the model accounts for different starting points and development paths. Someone naturally confident but struggling with authenticity would follow a different development trajectory than someone highly empathetic but lacking confidence. The framework allows personalization while maintaining the essential elements that create genuine charisma. Over time, the model creates a virtuous cycle of improvement. Initial awkwardness gives way to competence, then to natural fluency. What begins as a conscious technique eventually transforms into an authentic expression. This progression mirrors other complex skill development, where deliberate practice leads to unconscious mastery. Practically applied, this model transforms abstract charisma into concrete daily practices. Rather than vaguely aspiring to be more charismatic, you might focus on maintaining eye contact in conversations today, practicing storytelling techniques tomorrow, and working on vocal variety the next day. This targeted approach accelerates development and creates observable progress. The charisma development model empowers you to systematically cultivate magnetic presence by transforming abstract qualities into concrete skills, building confidence through structured practice, expressing authenticity through self-awareness, and creating genuine connection through emotional resonance, making charisma not just a goal to aspire to, but a path to walk deliberately. From social competence to transformative influence, the cultivation of charisma represents far more than merely enhancing social skills. It fundamentally transforms your capacity to create meaningful change in your world. When you develop the confidence to express your ideas authentically and the empathy to connect with others' needs, you unlock unprecedented potential for positive impact. This combination allows you to communicate vision in ways that resonate emotionally, inspire action in others, and navigate complex social environments with natural ease. Consider how charismatic leaders throughout history have catalyzed movements and innovations. Their technical expertise or positional authority often mattered less than their ability to articulate compelling visions that resonated with fundamental human needs and aspirations. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech moved millions, not just through its intellectual arguments, but through its emotional resonance and authentic delivery. Similar patterns appear in business, where studies of successful entrepreneurs show that their ability to convey passionate belief in their ideas often proves more crucial for securing support than the technical merits of their business plans. The transformative influence of personal charisma operates like a multiplier effect on your existing strengths and capabilities. Your technical skills, knowledge, and insights gain a dramatically greater impact when delivered with a charismatic presence. Imagine two equally qualified professionals presenting identical information. The one who connects authentically, communicates confidently, and engages emotionally will invariably create a stronger impact. This multiplier effect explains why charisma consistently correlates with faster career advancement, greater leadership opportunities, and broader influence across contexts. Personal relationships similarly transform when nurtured through charismatic qualities. The deepest human connections form not through perfect agreement or shared circumstances, but through authentic presence and emotional understanding. When you engage with others charismatically, truly seeing them rather than merely interacting with them, you create space for vulnerability and genuine sharing. These qualities build relationships marked by trust and mutual growth rather than superficial convenience. In an increasingly disconnected world, The ability to create authentic connections becomes an increasingly valuable and uncommon gift. By debunking myths about charisma being innate, developing specific techniques to cultivate magnetic presence, and understanding how these qualities amplify your influence, you transform not only how others perceive you, but fundamentally how you engage with the world, creating a ripple effect of positive impact that extends far beyond your immediate interactions. The power to transform your social presence. As we've seen throughout this chapter, charisma isn't some magical quality bestowed upon a lucky few at birth. It's a skill, one you can develop, refine, and strengthen with dedicated practice. The techniques we've explored are not theoretical abstractions, but practical tools you can implement starting today. Remember that genuine charisma emerges from the intersection of self-confidence and authentic connection. When you believe in yourself while simultaneously making others feel valued, you create a magnetic presence that draws people to you naturally. This balance between self-assurance and outward focus forms the foundation of true charismatic influence. The journey toward enhanced charisma requires patience. You might feel awkward at first when practicing active listening or stepping outside your comfort zone in social situations. This discomfort is normal, even necessary, as you build new neural pathways and behavioral patterns. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to refine your approach. What matters most is consistency. Small, daily efforts to connect more meaningfully with others will compound over time, transforming how you're perceived and how you experience social interactions. The confidence-building exercises we discussed work precisely because they create incremental shifts in your self-perception that eventually become your new normal. The impact of developing your charisma extends far beyond making good first impressions. As you've seen, enhanced charisma transforms professional opportunities, deepens personal relationships, and enables you to navigate complex social dynamics with greater ease. Your ability to influence without manipulation, to lead through connection rather than coercion, becomes a powerful force for positive change. You already possess the raw materials for charisma. Your unique perspective, experiences, and qualities can be harnessed and refined rather than replaced. This process isn't about becoming someone else, but about becoming the most effective version of yourself. Take what you've learned here and apply it deliberately. Notice how others respond when you implement these techniques. Adjust your approach based on feedback, both verbal and nonverbal. Celebrate your progress, however small. Each authentic connection you forge strengthens your charismatic presence. The path to remarkable charisma lies not in grand gestures, but in consistent, authentic engagement with others. By combining the confidence-building practices, empathy exercises, and connection techniques we've covered, you'll develop a natural charisma that opens doors and creates opportunities in every area of your life. Your journey toward enhanced charisma starts now. The person others are drawn to, the one who influences through authentic connection, is already within you, waiting to emerge through practice, patience, and perseverance. The ripple exercise. Charisma, once awakened, begins to ripple outward. You may already have noticed subtle shifts, conversations flowing more easily, people leaning in when you speak, or the quiet confidence that follows genuine connection. These ripples aren't accidents. They're signals that your growing presence is already influencing the emotional tone of your environment. The beautiful part is, this process doesn't stop with you. Every small act of connection, every moment of authentic listening, spreads farther than you realize. Think about how a simple moment, a smile offered at the right time, a word of encouragement, can stay with someone for days. The same principles of charisma you've been practicing are not confined to personal gain. They have the power to shape the emotional climate around you. This is what makes social intelligence so transformative. It multiplies through contact. When you embody confidence and empathy, others subconsciously permit themselves to do the same. What began as self-improvement quietly becomes service. At this point in your journey, I invite you to extend that ripple a little further. Somewhere out there, someone like you is standing at the threshold of transformation, uncertain, curious, looking for guidance on how to connect better. You can help them take that first step simply by sharing your experience. All it takes is a moment of reflection to leave an honest review of this audiobook and describe what's resonated most with you so far. Your words could become the very encouragement that helps another listener find their voice, just as you are finding yours now. It's an act of goodwill that costs nothing but carries weight. Your feedback helps future listeners know that these principles work in real lives, not just on paper. More importantly, it creates a circle of support, learners assisting learners, which is the essence of what this audiobook stands for. Take a short pause before the next chapter and share your perspective. Let your ripple continue outward. P.S. You never know whose confidence your words might ignite. Sometimes one sincere review becomes the spark that changes a stranger's life.
I hope you are enjoying my audiobook so far. It would be a pleasure if you could let me know how you are feeling about this audiobook in the comment section below. We would greatly appreciate it if you could also like this video and subscribe to United Audiobooks to have access to more best-selling audiobooks in the future. Also, if you are interested in getting more free audiobooks, please click the first link in the description below. Now, let us carry on with the next chapter.
Chapter 3. The Limits of the Digital Connection. The Digital Illusion. Why your 1,000 followers still leave you lonely. In an age where a 6-year-old can navigate YouTube before tying shoelaces, we've collectively embraced the digital revolution as the solution to human connection. We celebrate virtual friendships, count our worth in likes, and consider ourselves in touch with hundreds through quick texts and emoji reactions. Yet, despite our hyperconnectivity, studies consistently show rising rates of loneliness and social isolation. The digital paradox is clear. We've never been more connected, yet never felt more disconnected. This fundamental contradiction sits at the heart of our exploration into why digital fluency, while necessary, simply isn't sufficient for creating the meaningful human bonds we inherently crave. The limitations of digital communication aren't merely nostalgic complaints from generations raised on landlines. The absence of nonverbal cues, which research shows account for up to 93% of emotional communication, creates a fundamental gap in understanding that no number of GIFs or carefully chosen emojis can bridge. When we communicate through screens, we lose access to micro-expressions, voice tonality, body language, and the subtle social synchrony that humans have evolved to interpret over thousands of years. This isn't about condemning technology, but recognizing its boundaries. You've likely experienced this yourself. The text message was misinterpreted as angry when you meant it to be lighthearted. The colleague who seemed perfectly pleasant in emails but proved difficult in person. The online friend who seemed fascinating until you met and discovered zero chemistry. These aren't coincidences, but symptoms of digital communication's inherent constraints. Without the full spectrum of human expression, we're essentially trying to build relationships while blindfolded and wearing earmuffs, which is possible but unnecessarily challenging. What's particularly troubling is how these limitations impact our emotional intelligence development. Young people who predominantly socialize through screens miss crucial opportunities to practice reading social cues, managing discomfort in real-time interactions, and developing the empathetic responses that constitute emotional maturity. Digital fluency, without corresponding in-person social skills, creates a dangerous imbalance where technical proficiency outpaces the human elements of connection, like having state-of-the-art climbing gear but never developing the muscles to climb. This chapter isn't advocating for digital abandonment. Quite the opposite. The tools of modern connection are invaluable when properly positioned within a broader social strategy. The question isn't whether to use digital communication, but how to use it while acknowledging its limitations. We'll examine specific strategies for recognizing when digital connection has reached its useful limit and when face-to-face interaction becomes necessary for relationship depth. Throughout this chapter, we'll unpack 3 critical areas for developing standout social skills in our hybrid digital-physical world. First, we'll identify the specific shortcomings of digital-only relationships and communication, allowing you to recognize warning signs that your connections need more than pixels can provide. Second, you'll develop practical techniques for becoming fluent in nonverbal communication, those crucial signals that make in-person interaction so rich with information. Finally, we'll work together on creating a balanced approach that leverages technology's strengths while prioritizing in-person connection for relationships that matter most. The path forward isn't about choosing digital fluency and in-person skills. It's about integration. The individuals who stand out socially in the coming decades will be those who masterfully navigate both realms, knowing when each serves their purpose best. They'll understand when to send a text, when to make a call, and when nothing will substitute for sitting across from someone, reading their expressions, and experiencing the irreplaceable chemistry of human presence. Let's discover how to become that socially fluent individual who makes others feel truly seen and understood, regardless of the medium. Breaking through the screen barrier. The distinction between connection and true connection has never been more relevant than today. As we progress through this chapter, you'll gain clear insight into recognizing when your digital relationships have hit their growth ceiling and how to transition them to deeper territory. We'll examine practical techniques for reading nonverbal cues, from micro-expressions to posture, that will dramatically enhance your ability to understand others and be understood. This isn't abstract theory, but actionable knowledge you can apply immediately in your next face-to-face encounter. The digital bridge that couldn't span the human gap. The light from Mark's laptop cast a blue glow across his face in the darkened apartment. Outside, rain pattered against the window, creating a rhythm that matched the tap of his fingers on the keyboard. He had been messaging Sarah for 3 hours now, trying to explain why he felt distant from her, even though they spoke every day. Mark paused, his fingers hovering over the keys. He knew all the shortcuts, all the emojis, all the ways to make text appear warm. He had mastered the art of the digital conversation. Quick responses, thoughtful reactions, and clever gifts. Yet something essential remained missing. He reached for his coffee, now cold, and took a sip. The bitter liquid matched his mood. "I don't understand," he typed, then deleted it. "I feel like we're talking but not communicating," he wrote instead. The words appeared on screen, stark and insufficient. How could he explain the emptiness he felt when all their important conversations happened through screens? He remembered their last in-person meeting 6 months ago, before Sarah moved across the country. The way her eyes had crinkled when she laughed, the slight tremor in her voice when she spoke about leaving. Those were things no emoji could capture, no video call could fully transmit. His phone buzzed with a notification. Sarah had sent a voice message. "I know what you mean," her voice came through, digitally compressed, yet still carrying a hint of the warmth he remembered. "Maybe this weekend we could try a video call instead of just messaging." Mark stared at the phone. Sarah believed the solution was another digital tool, a higher fidelity connection. He stood up and walked to the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. Each drop absorbed others as it fell, growing stronger in its descent. He pressed his palm against the cold window and felt something real for the first time that evening. The neighbors upstairs moved about, their footsteps creating a ceiling symphony. Mark returned to his desk, the wooden chair creaking under his weight. He looked at the constellation of open tabs on his browser, email, social media, news, and entertainment. All the ways he stayed connected to the world without ever truly touching it. His fingers tapped out a reply. I'd like that. But I've also been thinking, what if I visited next month? The cursor blinked, waiting. He knew video calls wouldn't bridge what was missing between them. No amount of digital fluency could replace the subtle dance of an in-person interaction. The shared silence, the unspoken understanding, the physical presence that said more than words. The message was sent with a soft whoosh. Mark closed his laptop, and the room suddenly became darker. In the new darkness, he could see the city lights through his window, each one representing lives unfolding in real time. People touching, laughing, arguing face to face. He thought about all the relationships in his life now, mediated through screens. His family group chat, his weekly video calls with college friends, his work meetings with colleagues he had never met. He was connected to more people than ever before. Yet something essential had been lost in translation. Something that required presence. Something that no app, no matter how sophisticated, could provide. How much of human connection depends not on the words exchanged, but on the invisible currents that flow between people, sharing the same physical space? And what happens to relationships when those currents are replaced by digital signals? The digital disconnect. Digital communication has transformed how we stay connected across distances, making it easier than ever to maintain relationships across cities, countries, and continents. Text messages, social media platforms, video calls, and emails provide instant connectivity and information sharing at a scale previously unimaginable. The efficiency is undeniable. We can update dozens of friends simultaneously with a single post or manage entire professional networks without leaving our desks. Yet beneath this convenience lies a troubling reality. Digital messages lack the emotional richness of face-to-face interaction. Studies from MIT's Media Lab show that up to 93% of communication effectiveness comes from nonverbal cues, tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and subtle gestures that digital platforms simply cannot fully capture. A text message saying, "That's fine," could mean genuine acceptance or passive aggression, with no reliable way for the recipient to discern the difference. Think of digital communication as trying to appreciate a symphony through a single earbud with a spotty connection. You might hear the main melody, but you miss the depth of the bass line, the shimmer of the strings, the spatial arrangement that creates the full emotional experience. What reaches you is technically the same song, but the essence, the true emotional resonance, has been compressed beyond recognition. This is what happens when we reduce rich human interaction to emojis and abbreviated messages. The consequences of this digital flattening extend beyond simple misunderstandings. Research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships reveals that meaningful conversations and disclosure of personal information, building blocks of intimacy, occur less frequently and less effectively in digital formats. People tend to self-censor more online, share less vulnerability, and project idealized versions of themselves. Meanwhile, the constant dopamine hits from notifications create a false sense of connection that can masquerade as relationship development, when in fact it's merely attention switching. This digital barrier becomes particularly problematic when addressing complex emotions or navigating conflicts. A University of Chicago study found that people consistently overestimate their ability to communicate emotions clearly through digital means, while simultaneously underestimating their ability to be misunderstood. Without real-time feedback from facial expressions or immediate voice responses, misinterpretations can spiral and conflicts can escalate. The short, reactive nature of digital exchanges also inhibits the thoughtful contemplation necessary for deep understanding. Physical presence creates a unique neurological synchronization that technology cannot replicate. When people interact face to face, their brain patterns actually begin to mirror each other, what neuroscientists call neural synchrony. This biological alignment creates the foundation for empathy and emotional resonance. Even the highest quality video call introduces enough micro delays and attention splits to prevent this natural synchronization from fully forming, keeping interactions at a surface level. The physical dimension of human contact, a reassuring touch, a spontaneous hug, or simply sharing the same air, triggers oxytocin release that digital interaction cannot. This bonding hormone creates feelings of trust and connection that form the biological foundation of close relationships. Even the most emoji-filled text exchange fails to activate these physiological pathways that evolution has designed for human bonding. Digital communication also struggles with the essential human quality of presence. Face-to-face interactions demand our full attention, creating a dedicated space for connection. Digital communication, by contrast, is designed for multitasking and partial attention. Most people check messages while doing other activities, creating a perpetual slate of divided attention that prevents the deep listening and responsive awareness that meaningful relationships require. This digital divide is particularly pronounced in moments of vulnerability, when sharing difficult news, celebrating achievements, or processing complex emotions. The fullness of human presence provides a quality of support that cannot be digitized. The comfort of a physically present friend during grief or the shared joy of celebrating in person creates emotional memories and bonds that digital approximations cannot match. Digital communication tools provide convenience and connection across distances, but fundamentally lack the emotional bandwidth, neurological synchrony, and physical presence necessary for building and maintaining deep, meaningful relationships. Reading the unwritten language. Nonverbal communication forms the invisible backbone of human interaction. Research consistently shows that between 60% to 90% of our communication happens nonverbally, depending on the context and relationship. Facial expressions alone convey more emotional information than words, with humans capable of distinguishing between thousands of different facial configurations. Beyond faces, body positioning, hand gestures, eye contact, and physical distance all communicate volumes before a single word is spoken. These nonverbal signals operate on multiple levels simultaneously. A slight shift in posture might indicate interest, discomfort, disagreement, or readiness to leave, often unconsciously. The brain processes these signals much faster than verbal communication, with studies showing that we form impressions based on body language within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone. This rapid assessment happens below conscious awareness, but profoundly affects how the interaction unfolds. Understanding nonverbal cues is like learning to read a complex but universal language. Just as a skilled reader doesn't process individual letters, but absorbs whole phrases at once, socially intelligent people don't analyze each gesture in isolation, but perceive patterns and clusters of signals that tell a coherent story. One crossed arm might mean nothing, but crossed arms combined with leaning away, minimal eye contact, and tight lips almost certainly indicate discomfort or disagreement. The ability to accurately interpret these signals varies dramatically between individuals. Some people seem naturally attuned to subtle expressions, while others miss even obvious cues. The good news is that this skill can be developed through conscious practice. Start by simply observing people in public places. Notice how they adjust their bodies when interested versus disinterested, how genuine smiles involve the eyes, creating crow's feet, while polite smiles remain limited to the mouth, how people lean toward what attracts them and away from what repels them. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said, noted management guru Peter Drucker. This insight captures the essential truth that effective communicators respond not just to words, but to the full spectrum of human expression. In practice, this means developing the habit of checking verbal messages against nonverbal ones, and when they conflict, trusting the nonverbal. Our conscious mind controls our words, but our body often reveals our true feelings. Mastering nonverbal interpretation requires understanding cultural variations as well. Eye contact, considered respectful in Western cultures, may be seen as challenging or inappropriate in others. Personal space boundaries differ dramatically across cultures. What feels comfortably close in Latin America might feel invasively near in Scandinavia. Even hand gestures that seem universal can carry vastly different meanings in different contexts. Developing true nonverbal fluency means recognizing these cultural dimensions and adjusting your interpretation accordingly. Beyond reading other signals, equally important is developing awareness of your own nonverbal communication. Most people unconsciously leak information through their body language, revealing feelings they may not intend to share. Cultivating body awareness allows you to align your nonverbal signals with your intended message, creating congruence that builds trust. This doesn't mean suppressing genuine emotion, but rather ensuring your full communication package conveys what you wish to express. Try this exercise to develop your nonverbal awareness. During your next few conversations, set an intention to notice 3 specific aspects of the other person's nonverbal communication. Perhaps eye contact patterns, hand movements, and body positioning. Then notice your own responses to these signals. Are you unconsciously mirroring them, pulling away, leaning in? This simple practice builds the observation muscle that underlies nonverbal fluency. Facial microaggressions, fleeting emotional displays that last less than 1/5 of a second, offer particularly valuable information in high-stakes interactions. These brief expressions often reveal emotions people are trying to conceal. While spotting these requires practice, even beginning observers can become more sensitive to emotional leakage by watching for incongruence. When someone's words say one thing, but their expression flashes something entirely different. Advanced nonverbal fluency involves combining multiple channels of information. Notice the alignment or misalignment between words, tone of voice, facial expression, and body language. When these channels align, communication feels authentic and trustworthy. When they contradict, something important may be hidden. Developing this multi-channel awareness helps you navigate complex social situations with greater confidence and accuracy. How might your relationships transform if you could read not just the words people say, but the full emotional landscape their bodies reveal in every interaction? Bridging the digital-physical divide, creating balance between digital convenience and meaningful face-to-face interaction requires intentional planning. Start by auditing your current communication patterns. Track for 1 week how you interact with key people in your life. How much happens digitally versus in person? This baseline assessment reveals opportunities for beneficial shifts. Many people are surprised to discover they haven't had a real conversation with close friends in months, despite daily text exchanges. Implementing a connection upgrade system can transform communication habits without overwhelming your schedule. Identify relationships that matter most and designate different interaction tiers. Reserve text messages for logistics and quick updates, phone calls for more substantive conversations, and face-to-face meetings for important discussions or relationship building. This intentional approach ensures the medium matches the message's importance. Think of your communication channels like a financial portfolio. Diversification is key to maximum returns. Just as wise investors don't put all their money in a single stock, socially intelligent people don't invest all their connection time in a single communication medium. Text messages might be the cash of your portfolio, quick, accessible, but limited in growth potential. Video calls represent mid-range investments with moderate returns, while in-person meetings are your high-yield, long-term investments that compound over time. Digital tools work best when they serve as bridges to physical meetings rather than substitutes. Use messaging apps to coordinate gatherings, social media to discover events, and video platforms to maintain connections between in-person visits. When geography makes regular physical meetings impossible, schedule more immersive virtual experiences. Shared activities like online games, cooking the same meal while on video chat, or watching a movie simultaneously can create a deeper connection than just talking. Research from relationship psychology offers clear guidance. Relationships require regular positive interactions to thrive. Dr. John Gottman's research suggests that successful relationships maintain at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. Face-to-face meetings more efficiently generate these positive exchanges because they engage multiple senses and create shared experiences. Planning weekly or monthly in-person activities with important people creates a reliable foundation of positive connections that sustains relationships through difficult periods. Creating rituals around face-to-face connection embeds it in your lifestyle. Sunday family dinners, monthly lunch with a mentor, quarterly reunions with old friends. These predictable gatherings remove the friction of constant planning and ensure regular connection. Digital tools can support these rituals through scheduling and reminders, but the heart of the ritual is showing up physically. The most successful relationship builders leverage technology to organize their in-person social life rather than replace it. Consider implementing a screen-to-green transition in your daily schedule. After periods of intense digital communication, intentionally move to natural settings for face-to-face interactions. Research shows that conversations in natural environments reduce stress hormones and increase feelings of connection. A walking meeting in a park or a coffee with a friend at an outdoor cafe creates more memorable interactions than the same conversation would in digital space. Integrating these approaches requires developing new habits. Try starting with a 3-2-1 connection plan. Each week, send 3 thoughtful text messages to maintain contact. Have 2 phone or video conversations for deeper exchange, and create 1 in-person opportunity to truly connect. This balanced approach leverages each medium's strengths while ensuring relationships don't get stuck in the limitations of digital-only interaction. The path to meaningful connection in the digital age isn't about choosing between technology and human contact, but about strategically integrating both, using digital tools to enhance and enable face-to-face interactions, while recognizing that the richest, most meaningful connections will always happen when people share the same physical space. Practical integration, your personal connection blueprint. Transforming communication patterns requires both strategy and practical steps. Start with a relationship inventory. Identify your inner circle, 5 to 8 people whose connection deeply matters. Your middle circle, 10 to 15 people you want regular contact with, and your outer circle, broader network. Different circles require different communication approaches. Your inner circle deserves the highest investment of face-to-face time, while digital tools may suffice for maintaining awareness with your outer circle. Establishing connection minimums creates accountability for maintaining important relationships. For inner circle connections, commit to in-person meetings at least monthly, complemented by weekly voice or video contact. Middle circle connections might involve monthly voice, video, and quarterly face-to-face meetings. Creating these minimums prevents relationships from inadvertently slipping through digital cracks, where the illusion of connection through occasional likes or comments masks the absence of meaningful interaction. The environment where interactions occur significantly impacts their quality and memorability. Neuroscience research shows that novel environments stimulate dopamine release and enhance memory formation. Instead of meeting at the same coffee shop, try walking meetings, activity-based gatherings, or exploring new locations together. These shared novel experiences create stronger bonds and more vivid memories than routine interactions in familiar places. Technology can be intentionally harnessed to enhance physical meetings rather than replace them. Use shared calendar apps to overcome scheduling barriers, meeting planning tools to reduce logistical friction, and location-based apps to discover gathering opportunities. Create a connection tech stack that supports your relationship goals rather than distracts from them. For instance, instead of scrolling social media alone, use event discovery features to find activities you can attend with friends. Communication quality often matters more than quantity. A focused, distraction-free conversation for 30 minutes creates more connection than hours of interrupted, partial attention digital exchange. Implement a phone stacking practice during meals, where all devices are placed in the center of the table face down, with the first person to check their phone paying the bill. Such playful boundaries create space for genuine presence and demonstrate mutual respect for the interaction. Batch processing digital communication frees up mental bandwidth for more meaningful exchanges. Instead of responding to messages continuously throughout the day, fragmenting attention and degrading both digital and physical interactions, designate specific times for handling digital correspondence. This creates clearer boundaries between connection modes and prevents the constant partial attention that diminishes relationship quality. When you're with someone, be fully with them. When you're handling digital communication, give it appropriate focus. Distance and circumstance sometimes make face-to-face meetings genuinely impossible. In these cases, create high-fidelity digital connections that approximate physical presence as closely as possible. This means prioritizing video over voice, voice over text, and synchronous communication over asynchronous when relationship depth matters. Additionally, create shared experiences even at a distance, watching the same movie simultaneously while video chatting or cooking the same recipe together creates more connection than just talking about your day. By thoughtfully balancing digital efficiency with face-to-face depth, developing skills to read and respond to nonverbal communication, and creating intentional practices that prioritize in-person connection for your most important relationships, you create a communication approach that leverages the best of both worlds, the convenience and reach of digital tools with the irreplaceable emotional richness of human presence. Key takeaways. Digital communication has gifted us with unprecedented connectivity, but as we've explored throughout this chapter, it comes with significant limitations that affect our ability to form deep, meaningful relationships. The screens that connect us also create barriers to the emotional resonance that defines truly fulfilling human interaction. The digital world offers convenience, but not completeness. While we can exchange information rapidly through texts and emails, we miss the subtle facial expressions, vocal tones, and body language that contain up to 93% of communication's emotional content. These nonverbal cues aren't just supplementary, they're essential to building trust, understanding context, and developing genuine empathy. Throughout this journey, we've examined not just the shortcomings of digital interaction, but also developed practical strategies to enhance our face-to-face communication skills. By becoming more attentive to eye contact, posture, and vocal qualities, you've gained tools that will immediately elevate your presence in any room. Your personalized action plan now serves as your roadmap to a more balanced communication style. Remember that technology should enhance your relationships, not replace them. By scheduling regular unplugged time, prioritizing face-to-face meetings for important conversations, and being more intentional about digital use, you're reclaiming the richness of human connection. The skills we've developed here aren't about rejecting technology. They're about recognizing its proper place. In a world increasingly mediated by screens, your ability to connect authentically in person becomes an increasingly rare and valuable trait. This balance will distinguish you in professional settings and deepen your personal relationships. As you move forward, continue to refine your awareness of nonverbal communication. Practice reading subtle cues in everyday interactions. Notice how a slight shift in posture can signal discomfort, or how a genuine smile creates an immediate sense of warmth. These observations will become second nature with practice. You now understand that true digital fluency means knowing when to put the device down. The most memorable moments in our lives, the conversations that change our perspectives, the connections that sustain us through difficulty, the interactions that lead to our greatest opportunities, almost always happen face to face. By developing this awareness and these skills, you're not just becoming a better communicator, you're becoming more fully present in your own life. And in a distracted world, that presence is perhaps the greatest gift you can offer others. Take what you've learned here and put it into practice today. Start small if needed. Make eye contact with a barista. Have lunch with a colleague instead of eating at your desk, or simply put your phone away during dinner. Each face-to-face interaction is an opportunity to practice and strengthen these essential skills. The journey toward meaningful connection continues beyond the digital realm. Let's embrace it together. Chapter 4: Listening with Purpose, Transforming Dialogue. The silent superpower everyone overlooks. In a world where everyone fights to speak, few master the art of truly listening. We've all experienced conversations where our counterpart was merely waiting for their turn to speak, rather than genuinely engaging with our words. The superficial exchange represents the vast difference between simply hearing sounds and the transformative practice of active listening, a cornerstone skill that separates memorable social interactions from forgettable ones. Active listening stands as the bridge between casual conversation and meaningful connection. It's the difference between nodding along while planning a grocery list and being fully present with another human being. When we truly listen, we create space for understanding that transcends words alone, accessing emotions, motivations, and underlying messages that often remain unspoken. This chapter explores how developing this skill can dramatically enhance your social presence and interpersonal effectiveness in ways that few other abilities can match. The previous chapters have equipped you with foundational social skills, from reading body language to navigating difficult conversations with emotional intelligence. Now we turn to perhaps the most underrated yet powerful skill in your social arsenal: listening with genuine purpose and intention. This practice doesn't just complement the skills you've already developed, it amplifies them, creating a multiplier effect on your social impact and memorability. Many people mistakenly believe they're good listeners simply because they remain quiet while others speak. Yet active listening requires much more. It demands mental engagement, emotional attunement, and responsive presence. The quality of your listening directly influences the depth of your relationships, affecting everything from casual friendships to crucial negotiations. When you master purposeful listening, people feel not just heard but understood at a fundamental level, creating an immediate sense of trust and rapport that's otherwise difficult to establish. Throughout this chapter, we'll explore the profound difference between passive hearing and active listening, examining how this distinction shapes the quality of your interactions. You'll learn practical techniques like summarizing, clarifying questions, and empathetic responding transform ordinary conversations into meaningful exchanges. These aren't just theoretical concepts, They're actionable skills you can begin implementing immediately after listening to notice profound differences in how others respond to you. Perhaps most importantly, we'll examine how active listening functions as the foundation for conflict resolution, deeper personal connections, and more productive professional collaborations. The skills you develop here will serve as essential tools for navigating challenging conversations with grace and fostering an atmosphere where genuine understanding can flourish. By cultivating these abilities, you'll distinguish yourself in both personal and professional settings as someone who creates psychological safety and depth in every interaction. As we near the conclusion of our journey through social excellence, this chapter ties together many threads we've explored: emotional intelligence, nonverbal communication, and authentic charisma, showing how active listening functions as the connective tissue between them all. In a digital age where attention is increasingly fragmented, your ability to listen deeply becomes not just a valuable skill, but a remarkable differentiator. When you truly listen with purpose, you don't just hear words, you honor the speaker's humanity in ways that leave lasting impressions. Think of this chapter as your practical guide to transforming ordinary conversations into extraordinary connections through the power of purposeful listening. By mastering these techniques, you'll not only enhance your social presence, but also contribute meaningfully to creating the kind of genuine human connections we all ultimately seek. Let's explore how to develop this essential skill together. The weight of words unheard. He sat at the wooden desk, his coffee cooling beside the stack of employee evaluations. Michael rubbed his template, feeling the dull throb of an approaching headache. Through the glass walls of his office, he could see Janet gesturing emphatically as she spoke with the design team. Her shoulders hunched forward, her hands cutting through the air with purpose. Something wasn't right. She's been trying to tell me for weeks, he thought, watching the way her smile never reached her eyes when she glanced toward his office. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the performance metrics that told him nothing about what his team actually needed. Michael sipped his coffee, wincing at its bitterness. The taste matched the realization forming in his mind. He'd been hearing her words, but missing her message. The memory of their last one-on-one meeting surfaced. Janet had outlined concerns about project deadlines, and he had nodded, made notes, and promised to consider adjustments. "I hear you," he had said, already thinking about his next meeting. Now, watching her defeated posture as she returned to her desk, he understood he had only processed the facts, not the fear beneath them, not the exhaustion in her voice or the way she had twisted her wedding ring, a gesture he now recognized as her tell for deep stress. Michael stood, the chair rolling back against the wall. Outside his window, the city pulsed with movement, people flowing between buildings like blood through veins. In that circulation of humanity, how many messages were lost? How many needs went unmet because someone failed to look beyond the surface of conversation? He moved toward his door, determined to speak with Janet again. This time, he would do more than hear her words. He would search for the truth behind them, reflect back what she shared, and ask questions that reached the heart of her concerns. The pen in his pocket felt heavy, a reminder of all the notes he had taken without truly listening to what was being said. The true cost of his inattention is now clear: a fractured team, diminished trust, and solutions perpetually out of reach. What would happen if he approached every conversation not as an exchange of information, but as an opportunity to understand the rich landscape of human experience that lay behind each word spoken, beyond passive hearing? Active listening is a conscious, focused activity that demands our full attention. Unlike passive hearing, which happens automatically when sound waves reach our ears, active listening requires engagement with both the speaker and their message. It means being fully present, setting aside distractions, and committing to understanding not just words, but the full meaning behind them. Think of passive hearing as catching raindrops in your hands. The water falls whether you're paying attention or not, and much of it slips through your fingers. Active listening, however, is like collecting rain in a carefully positioned bucket, intentional, effective, and gathering everything of value. When we passively hear, we typically retain only 25 to 50% of what's said. Our minds wander. We formulate responses while the other person is still speaking, and we miss crucial nuances. Active listening pushes that retention rate much higher because it engages multiple cognitive processes simultaneously. We're analyzing tone, observing body language, connecting ideas, and mentally summarizing as the conversation unfolds. The difference becomes especially apparent in emotionally charged situations. Someone sharing their frustrations at work might say, "The project deadline is impossible," and a passive listener might simply hear a complaint about timing. An active listener would notice the tension in their voice, recognize the underlying anxiety about performance, and understand that the real message might be about feeling overwhelmed or fearing failure. Active listening also creates a different experience for the speaker. When people sense they're truly being heard, that someone is working to understand them rather than just waiting for their turn to talk, they feel valued and respected. This validation often leads to deeper, more authentic communication, where real needs and concerns can emerge. In professional settings, the distinction can determine success or failure. Studies show that sales professionals who practice active listening close significantly more deals than those who don't. Healthcare providers who actively listen make more accurate diagnoses and create stronger patient relationships. Leaders who truly hear their teams foster higher engagement and innovation. Active listening transforms an automatic biological function into a powerful tool for connection, turning sound waves into understanding and creating space where genuine communication can flourish. Techniques that transform conversations. The foundation of active listening lies in being fully present with another person. This means putting away your phone, turning away from your computer screen, and facing the speaker. Make regular eye contact without staring, and position your body to signal openness. Uncrossed arms, a slight lean forward, and an attentive posture. These physical signs tell the speaker you're engaged before you've said a single word. But active listening extends far beyond body language. One core technique is summarizing what you've heard in your own words. After someone shares something meaningful, try saying, "If I understand correctly, you're saying that." This serves two crucial purposes. First, it confirms whether you've actually understood their message. Second, it shows the speaker you're genuinely trying to comprehend their perspective. Imagine trying to navigate an unfamiliar city without occasionally checking your map or GPS. You might think you're heading in the right direction, but without verification, you could end up miles from your destination. Summarizing works like that navigation check, ensuring you're still on the right conversational path. Clarification questions represent another powerful active listening tool. When something isn't clear or seems contradictory, phrases like, "Could you help me understand what you mean by," or "I'm curious about how," invite elaboration without judgment. These questions should be specific rather than vague, focusing on particular points that need illumination rather than generic prompts. The most challenging, yet perhaps most valuable active listening technique is empathetic responding. This means acknowledging the emotions behind the words, even when they haven't been explicitly stated. Statements like, "That sounds really frustrating," or "I can see why you'd be excited about that opportunity," validate feelings and create psychological safety. The key is matching your response to their emotional tone without overstepping or assuming too much. Silence also plays a vital role in active listening. Many people rush to fill conversational gaps, but strategic silence gives both parties time to process. After someone shares something important, a thoughtful pause before responding shows you're considering their words carefully rather than jumping to a pre-planned response. This patience often encourages the speaker to elaborate further, revealing additional insights they might otherwise have kept to themselves. Effective active listeners also pay attention to nonverbal cues. Research suggests that between 60% to 90% of communication is nonverbal, depending on the context. Facial expressions, gestures, posture changes, and vocal tone all contain valuable information that words alone might not convey. When there's a mismatch between someone's words and their nonverbal signals, gentle exploration might reveal deeper truths. Reflecting feelings represents a particularly powerful form of active listening. This involves naming the emotion you perceive. You seem disappointed by that outcome, or I'm hearing a lot of enthusiasm in your voice. When done thoughtfully, this technique helps people feel deeply understood and often helps them better understand their own reactions. However, it requires careful calibration. Reflecting too frequently can feel mechanical, while inaccurate reflections may create distance rather than connection. What would change in your relationships if you consistently made others feel not just heard, but truly understood? The EAR framework: engagement, articulation, response. Active listening doesn't just happen naturally. It requires a structured approach that can be applied systematically across different contexts. The EAR framework provides a comprehensive model for developing exceptional listening skills that transform conversations and relationships. This framework breaks down the complex process of active listening into three interconnected components that work together to create meaningful dialogue. Engagement, the foundation of connection. The first component of the EAR framework is engagement, which establishes the necessary conditions for effective listening. Engagement encompasses both physical and mental presence, the deliberate choice to give your full attention to another person. This means eliminating distractions, maintaining appropriate eye contact, and adopting an open posture that signals receptivity. Effective engagement also involves internal preparation. Before important conversations, take a moment to clear your mind and set aside your own agenda. This mental reset allows you to approach the interaction with curiosity rather than preconceptions. Research shows that even a brief mindfulness practice before conversations can significantly improve listening quality. The engagement component also includes tracking the speaker's emotional state through facial expressions, body language, and vocal tone. These nonverbal elements often communicate more than words alone, revealing underlying feelings that might not be explicitly stated. By observing these cues attentively, you gather crucial context that enriches your understanding. Articulation, reflecting understanding. The second component, articulation, involves demonstrating your understanding through various verbal techniques. This isn't about inserting your opinions. It's about showing the speaker that their message has been received accurately. Summarizing key points in your own words serves as a comprehension check while reassuring the speaker that you're following their train of thought. Clarification questions form another critical element of the articulation component. When something seems unclear or contradictory, thoughtful questions help resolve ambiguity and deepen understanding. Questions should be specific rather than general, focusing on particular aspects of what's being shared. When you mention challenges with the team, could you elaborate on what specifically has been difficult? These targeted inquiries demonstrate genuine interest while gathering important information. Paraphrasing represents the third aspect of articulation, involving restating the speaker's message in different words while preserving its essential meaning. This technique confirms understanding while showing you've processed the information deeply enough to reformulate it. Effective paraphrasing captures both content and emotional tone. So you're concerned about the project timeline because past deadlines have created stress for your team. Response: meaningful feedback. The final component of the EAR framework is response, which addresses how you contribute to the conversation after listening attentively. This doesn't mean simply waiting for your turn to speak. It means crafting replies that acknowledge what you've heard while moving the dialogue forward constructively. Empathetic validation forms a crucial element of responsive listening. This involves acknowledging the legitimacy of others' feelings and experiences, even when you might see things differently. Statements like, "That sounds incredibly challenging," or "I can understand why you'd feel that way," create psychological safety that encourages further sharing. The response component also includes thoughtful question asking that expands the conversation in productive directions. Open-ended questions that build on what's being shared demonstrate both understanding and interest. Given those experiences, what approach do you think might work better next time? These questions should emerge naturally from what's been discussed, rather than redirecting to unrelated topics. The final aspect of response involves offering your own perspective when appropriate, while maintaining connection to what's been shared. This means connecting your contributions explicitly to the speaker's points. What you said about team communication challenges resonates with my experience. I've found that this approach ensures your input feels collaborative rather than competitive. Implementation: putting EAR into practice. The EAR framework can be applied through structured exercises that build listening skills incrementally. One effective practice involves conversation partners taking turns speaking for 3 minutes, while the listener focuses exclusively on understanding. After the speaking period, the listener summarizes what they heard and checks for accuracy before roles are reversed. Another implementation approach involves using a listening journal to track progress. After important conversations, note which EAR components you executed well and which need improvement. This reflective practice accelerates development by highlighting specific areas for growth rather than vague goals about better listening. For professional applications, the EAR framework can be systematically employed in meetings by designating specific listening roles. Having one team member focus on capturing key points, another on identifying emotional undercurrents, and a third on generating clarifying questions creates a comprehensive listening environment that improves decision quality and team cohesion. Dynamic interactions between components. The power of the EAR framework comes not just from its individual components, but from their dynamic interaction. Engagement creates the necessary conditions for articulation to be effective. Without full attention, attempts to summarize or clarify will likely miss crucial information. Similarly, response becomes meaningful only when it builds on the understanding developed through engagement and articulation. These components also operate in a feedback loop. When people experience thoughtful responses that clearly build on what they've shared, they typically engage more deeply in the conversation. This increased engagement provides richer information for articulation, which in turn enables more insightful responses. This positive cycle transforms interactions from transactional exchanges into genuine dialogue. The EAR framework adapts to different contexts through emphasis shifts. In emotional situations, the engagement component might require more attention to nonverbal cues, while complex technical discussions might demand greater focus on the clarification aspects of articulation. This flexibility makes the framework applicable across personal conversations, professional collaborations, and conflict resolution scenarios. Active listening through the EAR framework transforms communication at every level, from improving understanding in casual conversations to resolving complex conflicts. By mastering engagement through full presence, articulating understanding through thoughtful techniques, and responding in ways that validate while moving dialogue forward, you develop not just communication skills, but the capacity to build genuinely transformative relationships in every area of life. Transforming personal connections. Active listening fundamentally changes personal relationships by creating emotional safety. When people feel truly heard, they become more willing to share vulnerable thoughts and feelings they might otherwise keep hidden. This openness creates possibilities for deeper connections that simply cannot exist when conversations remain superficial. In friendships, active listening helps prevent misunderstandings that often cause unnecessary conflict. A friend mentions feeling left out after a group outing. A passive listener might dismiss this with, "Don't be so sensitive," while an active listener would explore the feeling. "Can you tell me more about what made you feel excluded?" This invitation acknowledges the emotion without judgment and creates space for resolution rather than defensiveness. Family relationships particularly benefit from improved listening practices. Family dynamics often become entrenched over the years, with communication patterns that no longer serve anyone well. When one family member begins practicing active listening, truly seeking to understand rather than respond from habit, it can gradually transform these patterns. The change is rarely immediate, but consistent application of listening skills creates new possibilities for connection where old conflicts once dominated. Romantic partnerships thrive or struggle largely based on communication quality. Research consistently shows that couples who practice active listening report higher relationship satisfaction and lower conflict levels. The technique proves especially valuable during disagreements, where the natural tendency toward defensive listening can escalate tensions. By consciously choosing to understand your partner's perspective before advocating your own, you create a foundation for collaborative problem solving rather than competitive arguing. Elevating professional effectiveness. In the workplace, active listening directly impacts performance across multiple dimensions. Leaders who listen effectively make better informed decisions because they gather more accurate and comprehensive information. Their teams feel valued rather than dictated to, increasing engagement and reducing turnover. These benefits translate directly to organizational outcomes. Companies with leaders rated highly on listening skills typically outperform their competitors financially. Customer-facing roles see particularly dramatic results from improved listening. Sales professionals who practice active listening typically close 20 to 30% more deals than those who don't, according to multiple industry studies. This happens because understanding customer needs accurately allows for more relevant solutions rather than generic pitches. The same principle applies in client services, where active listening leads to higher satisfaction and repeat business. Team collaboration undergoes a remarkable transformation when active listening becomes the norm. Meetings become more productive as ideas are fully explored rather than superficially considered. Innovation increases because people feel safe sharing unconventional thoughts without fear of immediate dismissal. The collective intelligence of the group, its ability to solve problems effectively, rises significantly when everyone's contributions receive thoughtful consideration. Remote work environments, now increasingly common, demand even stronger listening skills to compensate for reduced nonverbal communication. Without facial expressions and body language fully visible, careful attention to tone, word choice, and what remains unsaid becomes crucial. Teams that develop explicit active listening practices for virtual meetings maintain stronger connections, and avoid the misunderstandings that often plague digital communication. Diffusing conflict through understanding. Conflict resolution represents perhaps the most powerful application of active listening skills. Most conflicts escalate because each party feels misunderstood, creating a defensive cycle where listening quality deteriorates further with each exchange. Breaking this cycle requires someone to step back and commit to understanding before being understood. When facing disagreement, active listening begins by temporarily setting aside the need to prove your point. Instead, focus completely on accurately comprehending the other person's perspective, not just their position, but their underlying concerns, values, and needs. This approach doesn't mean you ultimately agree with them, but it creates the psychological safety necessary for productive dialogue. Think of conflict as a knot that tightens when both parties pull in opposite directions. Active listening works like carefully examining the knot's structure before attempting to untangle it. What appears from a distance to be simple opposition often reveals itself upon closer inspection to contain areas of alignment alongside the differences. These points of agreement, once identified, provide starting places for resolution. Workplace conflicts particularly benefit from structured, active listening approaches. When team members disagree about priorities or methods, having each person summarize the other person's view before responding helps ensure everyone's concerns receive fair consideration. This technique prevents the common problem of people arguing against distorted versions of each other's positions rather than engaging with what was actually meant. By developing active listening skills, you create a foundation for transformative communication across all areas of life, deepening personal connections through genuine understanding, enhancing professional effectiveness through better information gathering, and resolving conflicts by breaking cycles of defensive communication. The art of purposeful listening. Active listening transforms ordinary conversations into meaningful exchanges where both parties feel genuinely understood. Throughout this chapter, we've explored how listening goes far beyond passively absorbing words. It's about engaging with the complete message, including emotions, intentions, and unspoken needs. When you truly listen with purpose, you create space for authentic connection. The techniques we've discussed, summarizing key points, asking clarifying questions, and responding with empathy, aren't just communication tactics, they're powerful tools that demonstrate your investment in the relationship and your commitment to understanding others on their terms. Remember that active listening requires practice. You might feel awkward the first few times you consciously implement these skills, but with consistent effort, they'll become second nature. The rewards are immediate. People respond differently when they feel heard. Conflicts de-escalate, collaboration improves, and trust deepens. The ripple effects of becoming a skilled listener extend far beyond individual conversations. In your personal relationships, active listening creates emotional safety and intimacy. In professional settings, it positions you as someone who values others' perspectives, a quality increasingly rare and valued in today's fast-paced world. As we conclude our exploration of essential social skills, it's worth noting how each element builds upon the others. The emotional intelligence we discussed earlier helps you recognize feelings, both yours and others. The authentic charisma we explored allows you to express yourself genuinely. The conversation techniques we examined give you structure for meaningful exchanges. And now, active listening completes the circle by ensuring you receive others' messages with the same care and attention you put into crafting your own. These skills collectively form the foundation of meaningful human connection in an increasingly digital world. While technology changes how we communicate, the fundamental human need to be seen, heard, and understood remains constant. By mastering these social skills, you're not just learning to stand out, you're learning to connect in ways that honor our shared humanity. Take these tools forward into your conversations tomorrow. Notice the difference when you listen to understand rather than to respond. Pay attention to how others react when they feel truly heard. Most importantly, be patient with yourself as you grow. Developing exceptional social skills isn't about perfection, it's about progress and presence. You now possess a comprehensive toolkit for navigating social situations with confidence, empathy, and authenticity. Trust in these skills, practice them regularly, and watch as your relationships and your influence flourish in ways you might never have imagined possible. Final words. As we reach the end of our exploration together, I want to acknowledge the courage it takes to invest in your own growth. The journey through these chapters wasn't merely about acquiring techniques. It was about embracing a more authentic, connected way of being in the world. Social skills aren't just nice-to-have accessories. They're the essential threads that weave the fabric of our human experience. By developing emotional intelligence and genuine charisma, you've equipped yourself with tools that transcend simple conversation starters or networking tricks. You've begun mastering the art of human connection itself. Throughout our journey, we've uncovered how true social fluency stems from self-awareness and emotional attunement. We've explored how the ability to read a room, respond appropriately to others' emotional states, and communicate with clarity transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful exchanges. These skills don't just make you likable, they make you influential, trustworthy, and memorable. Remember, the foundations we established early on, how understanding your own emotional landscape creates the bedrock for interpreting others accurately. We examined how nonverbal communication often speaks louder than words, revealing intentions and feelings beneath surface conversations. We practiced the delicate balance of assertiveness and empathy that allows you to stand your ground while honoring others' perspectives. The charisma principles we explored weren't about manufacturing an appealing facade, but about amplifying your authentic self. True magnetism comes not from performance but presence. Your ability to be fully engaged, genuinely curious, and warmly responsive creates a gravitational pull that others naturally respond to. While these concepts may seem straightforward in theory, I recognize their application requires practice and patience. Social mastery doesn't happen overnight. You'll experience awkward moments and missteps. Everyone does, even those who seem effortlessly charismatic. The difference lies not in avoiding mistakes, but how you recover from them. Each social interaction becomes a learning opportunity when approached with curiosity rather than judgment. As you implement these skills in your daily life, start small. Choose one technique to practice each week, perhaps beginning with active listening or emotion recognition. Notice how small adjustments, such as maintaining eye contact, asking follow-up questions, or acknowledging others' feelings, create ripple effects in your interactions. The most profound changes often begin with subtle shifts, consistently applied. To make these practices stick, consider keeping a social skills journal. After meaningful interactions, jot down what worked well, what you might do differently next time, and any insights about yourself or others. This reflection accelerates learning and helps personalize these principles to your unique personality and circumstances. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge that social dynamics vary across cultures, contexts, and individual preferences. The principles in this audiobook provide a foundation, but your emotional intelligence will guide you in adapting these approaches to diverse situations. Some environments may call for more formal communication styles, while others allow for greater warmth and informality. Your growing social awareness will help you discern these nuances. The path forward isn't about achieving perfection in every interaction, but about continuous growth and genuine connection. There will be days when your social energy feels depleted, or when certain relationships remain challenging despite your best efforts. This is normal and human. Compassion for yourself remains as important as empathy for others throughout this process. What matters most isn't flawless execution, but your willingness to engage authentically, learn continuously, and connect meaningfully. The skills you've developed aren't just for professional advancement or social popularity, though they certainly help with both. Ultimately, they're about enriching your life through a deeper understanding of yourself and others. As you finish this audiobook and step back into your world, carry with you not just techniques, but a perspective, one that values human connection as our most precious resource. In a world increasingly mediated by screens and algorithms, your ability to create genuine human moments becomes not just personally fulfilling, but culturally vital. The greatest success isn't measured by how many people know your name, but by how many people feel truly seen and understood in your presence. That's the legacy of social skills that truly stand out. The most powerful connections are built not on elaborate strategies, but on simple presence, the willingness to listen deeply, respond honestly, and show up with an open heart. In the end, it's not how impressive we appear, but how authentically we connect that changes lives, including our own. Maya Angelou.
We appreciate you tuning in to one of our captivating audiobooks. For more immersive experiences, here is another audiobook we're certain you'll enjoy. Don't forget to show your support by liking this video, sharing what you loved about this audiobook in the comments section below, and subscribing for more captivating audiobooks like this. Thanks for being a part of our audiobook community.